becomes disenchanted with just making a living. When he turns to greed, it's every time.
Legendary music executive, that would be the one and only Clive Davis. He has signed, as you know, some of the biggest names in the business, including Barry Manilow, Patti Smith, Billy Joel, Earth, Wind & Fire. The list is very long.
That's too bad that the industry put that kind of weapon out there to themselves.
Barry White was the smooth voice behind some of the greatest love songs ever. But behind the romance was a dangerous mistake that made him a target in Hollywood's cutthroat game.
One of the few surviving music moguls from the 1960s.
Deep down, we all wanted to be Clive Davis.
What was the secret he uncovered? And could it be that this secret led to unimaginable consequences?
You're dealing with your life. A lot of people play with this record business, man. They use this glamour as a beautiful little bubble to flash in front of the outer world. But that bubble is very dangerous.
Did Barry White stumble upon something so explosive it threatened the empire of Clive Davis, one of Hollywood's untouchable power players?
When man becomes disenchanted with just making a living, when he turns to greed, it kills him every time.
And how did this fateful decision follow Barry until his tragic final days? Barry Eugene Carter, popularly known as Barry White, left a mark on the music industry with his deep bass voice and undeniable charm. Born on September 12, 1944 in Galveston, Texas, Barry White's life journey was nothing short of a roller coaster ride filled with ups, downs, and sensational music that set the mood for romance in the 1970s and beyond.
Can't get enough of your company.
Barry White's rise to fame was not without its fair share of drama and surprises. From his early years in Galveston to his teenage escapades and life-altering moments, here's a juicy look at the man behind the sultry voice and the steamy hits that made him a legend. Barry White's parents, Melvin A. White and Sadie Marie Carter, never tied the knot, which led to a rather unique twist in his life. His mother gave him her last name, but as fate would have it, he later adopted his father's surname. This twist of fate would be just one of many that would shape Barry's remarkable journey. The backdrop for his formative years was the Watts neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles, California. Growing up in this vibrant and sometimes challenging environment, he found solace in music. Barry's mother had a penchant for classical tunes, and young Barry eagerly listened to her extensive collection. His fascination with music began to take root, and he started tinkering with the piano, trying to recreate the magic he heard on those vinyl records. Barry White's musical talents were apparent from a young age, and the story goes that at just 11 years old, he played the piano on Jesse Belvin's 1956 hit single, "Good Night, My Love." However, in a surprising twist, Barry denied any involvement in writing or arranging the song during a 1995 interview. He believed that the story had been blown out of proportion by overzealous journalists. While it's true that he and Belvin lived in the same neighborhood, there was a significant age gap between them, with Belvin being 12 years older. Despite the ambiguity surrounding his early career, Barry's talent couldn't be denied. He attended Jacob A. Rias High School, an all-boys academy in Southeast Los Angeles. His voice underwent a dramatic transformation when he turned 14, deepening considerably. Barry reminisced, "I had a normal squeaky kid voice as a child. Then as a teenager, that completely changed. My mother cried because she knew her baby boy had become a man." His deep, velvety voice was a gift that would one day captivate the world.
Woke up one morning when I was 14 and
You woke up?
I spoke to my mother, and I scared both of us.
But Barry White's path was not without its detours. At the age of 16, he found himself behind bars for a daring heist involving $30,000 worth of Cadillac tires. In today's currency, that would be approximately equivalent to $290,000. During his stint in jail, Barry had a transformative experience that would set the stage for his future. He heard Elvis Presley crooning "It's Now or Never" on the radio, and that moment left a mark on his soul. Barry credited this encounter with changing the course of his life. But the real turning point came on his 18th birthday. On the very day he was supposed to return to high school, Barry decided to skip class and make a pilgrimage of sorts to the Capitol Records headquarters in Hollywood. He stood across the street from the office, gazing at it for hours, absorbing the lively atmosphere that surrounded it. This experience ignited a fire within him, inspiring him to pursue a career in Hollywood and the entertainment industry, even though he had no formal training in reading or writing music.
That music is my lifesaver. That's why I dedicated my life to that lady. To this day, to the day I die, I will make music.
Anyway, following his release from prison, White abandoned his involvement in gang activities and embarked on a music career during the early 1960s, initially as a member of singing groups. His debut release, Too Far to Turn Around, came in 1960 as part of the Upfronts. Subsequently, he worked with various small independent record labels in Los Angeles, recording singles under his own name in the early 1960s. He was often backed by vocal groups like the Atlantics and the Majestics. It's worth noting that White was mistakenly credited with producing Bob and Earl's 1963 hit single Harlem Shuffle, a claim he refuted in his 1999 autobiography, confirming that Gene Page was the actual producer. In 1965, White took on the role of producer for the track Feel All Right by the Bel Cantos, which was released on the Downey label. In 1966, under the alias Lee Berry, he recorded his first single, Man Ain't Nothin', also on the Downey label. Furthermore, he co-wrote Together Forever, a song released by Pat Powdrill and the Power Drills in 1967. During the mid-1960s, Bob Keane of Delphi Records hired White as an A&R man for his newly established Bronco Records imprint. White began collaborating with the label's artists, including Viola Wills and the Bobby Fuller Four, in various capacities such as songwriter, session musician, and arranger. He played a pivotal role in discovering singer Felice Taylor and arranging her successful song, I Feel Love Comin' On, co-written with his friend Paul Politi, which achieved significant popularity in the UK. White and Politi continued to write chart-topping hits for Taylor, including It May Be Winter Outside, But in My Heart It's Spring, and Under the Influence of Love. In 1969, White signed a producer deal with Forward Records of Los Angeles, a division of Transcontinental Entertainment Corporation. White's breakthrough as a producer came in 1972 when he discovered and produced a girl group called Love Unlimited. Modeled after the Motown girl group The Supremes, the members had honed their talents under White's guidance for 2 years before signing contracts with Uni Records. With the help of music industry businessman Larry Nunes, who provided financial support, their album was recorded and presented to Russ Reagan, the head of Uni Records. The album, titled From a Girl's Point of View, We Give to You Love Unlimited, released in 1972, marked the beginning of White's series of albums and singles with lengthy titles. Following Reagan's departure from Uni Records for 20th Century Records, White's relationship with Uni soured, leading to a shift of his production deal and the Love Unlimited group to 20th Century Records. Throughout the 1970s, they produced several hits, including I Belong to You, which spent over 5 months on the Billboard R&B chart in 1974, including a week at #1, and Under the Influence of Love Unlimited, which reached #3 on the Billboard Pop album charts. On July 4, 1974, White married the lead singer of the group, Glodian James. In 1973, White founded the Love Unlimited Orchestra, initially intended as a backing band for Love Unlimited. However, White took a different direction and released the single Love's Theme in 1973, which he wrote and performed with the orchestra. The song reached #1 on the Billboard Pop charts. In 1974, the Love Unlimited Orchestra released their first album, Rhapsody in White, which included Love's Theme. White continued to release albums with the orchestra, and although the orchestra stopped producing albums in 1983, they continued to serve as White's backing band. Barry White was a musical genius, a pioneer, and a visionary. But he was more than just a singer. He was also a businessman. In an industry dominated by white executives, Barry made a bold move by starting his own record label, Unlimited Gold, under CBS Records. By owning his own, Barry had more control over his music. He could make the songs he wanted without someone else telling him what to do.
How do you survive, a black man with a black company?
I am not excluded from that nightmare of piracy and bootlegging.
Barry's decision to create his own label wasn't just about money. It was about control and integrity. He wanted to ensure that his music was produced and marketed the way he envisioned. But as Barry navigated the treacherous waters of the music industry, he encountered the dark side of the business.
Greed is a funny thing. Once you take a bite of it, it tends to turn on you and start eating you up.
In the 1983 interview on Black Focus, Barry spoke candidly about his disillusionment with the industry's greed and corruption. He described how record executives prioritized profits over artistry, often exploiting musicians for their own gain. Barry's words were a stark warning to anyone entering the industry, including his friend Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross was a musical prodigy. With a voice that could melt hearts, Luther quickly rose to fame in the late 1970s and 1980s. His hits like Never Too Much and Here and Now became timeless classics.
She will appear out of somewhere.
But behind the scenes, Luther faced numerous challenges. In the early 1980s, Luther signed with Clive Davis's new record label, J Records. Clive Davis was a legendary figure in the music industry, known for discovering and nurturing talent. But for Luther, signing with Davis came at a high cost.
2 weeks before the show was due to be taped, I called up Dion. I said, you know what? I can't do Soul Train, the second one. I can't do this. I can't do it.
After joining J Records, Luther's career initially soared. He released several successful albums and enjoyed commercial success. However, the pressures of the industry began to take a toll on him. Luther struggled with his weight, his health deteriorated, and he became increasingly isolated. Exclusive interviews reveal that Luther was not happy. He felt trapped by the demands of the industry and the constant pressure to produce hits. Friends and colleagues noticed a change in him, both physically and mentally. One prominent name that stands out in all this is Clive Davis, a figure synonymous with success in the music industry. As the founder of Arista Records and later J Records, Davis played a pivotal role in shaping the careers of countless artists. But his methods and influence have also been the subject of controversy.
They're going to do this, knowing they're never going to do anything. They're going to put you on the shelf because Clive Davis paid them to sign you, so you be stuck.
Davis was known for his hands-on approach and his ability to spot talent. However, his management style was often criticized for being overly controlling. Artists under his guidance were expected to conform to his vision, sometimes at the expense of their own creativity and well-being. One of the most well-known examples came from pop star Kelly Clarkson. Back in 2013, Clive released a memoir, The Soundtrack of My Life, where he made some pretty strong claims about his time working with her. He described this meeting where he said Kelly had burst into tears over a disagreement about adding "Since You Been Gone" to her album.
But since you've been gone, I can't breathe for the first time.
But Kelly wasn't having it. She took to social media to say his story was not only twisted, but a flat-out misrepresentation.
Clarkson came out swinging online late Tuesday, accusing her former producer of spreading misinformation in his new memoir, The Soundtrack of My Life.
In her response, Kelly clarified that she did cry in a meeting with Clive, but it wasn't about "Since You Been Gone." She says she cried after sharing her own song, Because of You, a song she'd written about her own life and struggles. Clive allegedly told her it was a shitty song, that she was a terrible writer, and that she should just be grateful for the gifts he'd bestowed on her. Can you imagine? Pouring your heart into a song only to be ripped apart by the very person who's supposed to help you reach your potential? But this story isn't just about a disagreement over songs, it's about the way Clive controlled his artists. Kelly's experience wasn't isolated. For years, rumors have floated around about how Clive allegedly uses his power to shape and sometimes stifle the careers of those under his influence. Other artists that Clive allegedly manipulated were Milli Vanilli. When Milli Vanilli burst onto the music scene over 35 years ago, they didn't just bring hit songs. They brought a massive scandal that would change the pop landscape forever.
I wanted to die. It stopped. Girl, you know it's girl, you know it's girl. 80,000 people. Girl, you know it's girl, you know. You know, I couldn't repeat it 15 times. Girl, you got obvious. So I stopped, I panicked, I ran off stage.
Lose everything so publicly was harsh. You don't know where to turn to because there's no body around you. you left.
What most people don't realize is just how many powerful figures were involved in the deception, including Clive Davis himself, who was head of Arista Records at the time. As the story goes, it wasn't just Milli Vanilli lip-syncing their songs. It was a well-oiled machine designed to profit at any cost. When Rob Pilatus and Fabrice Morvan, two young men who had survived tough upbringings and were hungry for a shot at stardom, met Frank Farian, they were presented with a dream come true. Farian, the producer who had previously helped launch Boney M to fame, offered them a deal. They would perform as Milli Vanilli, but there was a catch. They weren't the ones singing on their records. The music industry giants, including Farian and those at Arista Records, crafted an illusion, and Rob and Fab became the faces of it. This wasn't something they planned, but once they were in, they had no way out. Farian allegedly threatened to make them pay back everything they had earned if they refused to lip sync. And it worked for a while. Girl You Know It's True was a smash hit, selling millions and catapulting Milli Vanilli to international stardom.
Girl, you know it's true. I love you.
The industry, including Clive Davis, was happy to keep the money flowing while the charade held up. But once the truth came out, it was Rob and Fab, not the executives, who bore the full weight of the scandal. They faced intense public ridicule and were labeled frauds, while the industry figures who had orchestrated the deception largely escaped unscathed. And then there's the connection with Diddy. Suge Knight, who once ruled the industry as the CEO of Death Row Records, recently claimed from prison that Diddy and other artists were victims of calculated abuse from powerful executives. According to Knight, figures like Clive Davis, Russell Simmons, and Andre Harrell allegedly used drugs, alcohol, and even compromised situations to maintain control over their artists. These weren't just isolated incidents of partying too hard. Knight alleges it was a deliberate strategy, a manipulation tool. In his words, it all started when artists signed to major labels. While Suge says his own artists only smoked weed when they were with him, things changed when they switched to other labels. Suddenly, coke and heavier drugs entered the picture. Suge claimed it was a means to weaken artists' mental states, making them more vulnerable and compliant. He suggests this was a tactic that took Puffy down that lane, referring to the odd and sometimes questionable behavior Diddy later displayed publicly.
The industry is a crook's business. It's been like that for a long time. And the casting couch is real, but it's for women and men. But far from all that.
The alleged strategy was as calculated as it was effective, according to Suge. Artists who were once in control of their image and work would suddenly find themselves in strange environments, exposed to heavy drugs and weird situations that would compromise them, leaving them, as Suge put it, under control. He even mentioned instances of artists, including young performers like Usher and Justin Bieber, being exposed to alcohol, drugs, and a high-pressure lifestyle at an early age. Suge hinted that the industry heads may have even compromised Diddy's manhood, a cryptic statement with dark implications. The allegations don't end there. Davis's support for Diddy over the years has raised questions. When Diddy was sued by ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura for SA, Davis still didn't cut ties. In fact, Diddy was still welcomed at Davis's prestigious pre-Grammy bash, signaling a loyalty that went far beyond simple business partnerships. Davis reportedly stood by Diddy during his darkest controversies. But for what reasons? Suge's claims align with rumors that have circulated in the music industry for decades, that powerful executives use fame, drugs, and compromised situations to keep artists dependent and under their control. And while many dismiss these claims as conspiracy, the connection between Davis and Diddy, the inexplicable support despite scandal after scandal, has made people question whether Suge's accusations might have a kernel of truth. Anyway, despite being in an industry that couldn't care less about the artist, Barry White's velvety baritone voice, often accompanied by the sultry sounds of his orchestra, created the soundtrack to countless romances and intimate moments. His discography reads like a journey through the sweetest symphonies of love. Hits like Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe, You're the First, The Last, My Everything, and Never Never Gonna Give You Up are timeless classics that continue to serenade lovers around the world.
My first, my last, my everything.
His music transcended generations, becoming an anthem for lovers young and old.
That music is my lifesaver. That's why I dedicated my life to that lady. to this day.
Yet amid the harmonious melodies and passionate lyrics, Barry White's life was fraught with health challenges. He was a towering figure at 6'4" and weighed a staggering 364 pounds, which categorized him as morbidly obese with a BMI of 44.7. The roots of his obesity can be traced back to his childhood, where food scarcity led to his later food addiction. You see, growing up in poverty with a mother struggling to put food on the table, Barry developed unhealthy eating habits, including stealing food to satisfy his insatiable appetite. His addiction to food, coupled with other risk factors such as smoking, led to severe health problems. Smoking was another major contributor to his deteriorating health. His biographer reported witnessing Barry White routinely smoke up to 150 cigarettes a day during their time working together on his biography. Smoking, obesity, and high blood pressure became a dangerous trio that would ultimately affect his heart. In 1998, while working on his biography, Barry White's health was already in decline. He was plagued by dizzy spells and shortness of breath, symptoms he attributed to fatigue. However, these were early indicators of his deteriorating health. In August 1995, during a concert in Los Angeles, Barry nearly collapsed on stage, a reminder of his escalating health problems. Despite his health struggles, Barry White embarked on the World Icon Tour in the summer of 1995, a grueling 18-month tour spanning 30 countries and 50 concerts. This tour took a toll on his body, and his blood pressure skyrocketed. Unable to complete the tour, he had to leave it prematurely. In October 1995, he suffered a minor stroke at his Las Vegas home. The stroke was a warning sign of the underlying health issues that would continue to plague him. After the stroke, he embarked on a challenging journey towards recovery, relearning how to walk and talk. However, his determination to continue his music career often overshadowed his health concerns. Despite his family's best efforts to manage his health, Barry White's condition deteriorated further. He was diagnosed with kidney failure in September 2002, which necessitated regular dialysis. A kidney transplant was considered, but his health wasn't stable enough to undergo the procedure. As his health continued to decline, Barry White experienced a series of severe cardiac events, seizures, and strokes. He ultimately suffered a heart attack, leading to his hospitalization. The stress from disagreements about his care among family members and his girlfriend, Catherine Denton, added to his deteriorating health. Barry White's health battles ultimately took him to a point of no return. On July 4, 2003, at the age of 58, he passed away due to cardiac arrest. It was a somber end for a man who had brought so much joy and romance to the world through his music. In the end, Barry White's legacy isn't just his music. It's a legacy of resistance, a man who, despite all odds, fought to protect his integrity, never bowing to the demands of people like Clive Davis. And though he took some secrets to the grave, those who knew him say that Barry wanted one thing to be known, that Hollywood's power structure, the one represented by people like Clive Davis, comes at a high price. A price Barry White wasn't willing to pay, even if it meant paying with his life. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.